Good Monday morning. Welcome to the Olson Advantage. I'm Dave Olson of the Olson Properties team. Today, we're going to tackle a question that we've gotten an awful lot of over the last couple of weeks is what's happening in the current market? What is this shift that we're hearing about? The market is definitely shifting. We talked a little bit about the market cycle and the emotions that are very prevalent. And right now, with some of the changes that are occurring, we're seeing a definite shift in how people are reacting. The first thing that we saw starting at around the beginning of the year was an increase of inventory available for rent, up significantly. What's typical and looking over the last 20 years is we will see an increase or a decrease in the amount of available inventory from January to probably July, once we get into some of the hottest temperatures and people are done moving prior to getting kids back in school. We've also seen a flattening of the rates that are charged for rentals. We typically see those scale up from January to July again, but so far this year they've been relatively flat and in some cases down depending on the area. That is not typical for Phoenix. One of the other significant things that we've seen is an increase in the amount of available homes for sale, up nearly double from where we started the beginning of the year, which is not typical. We usually start with a glut of inventory late January, end of February. It tapers down through about July when our selling season ends, and then it gradually builds back up towards the end of the year. Again, very unlike what is typical here in Arizona from a seasonality standpoint. We've also seen a significant reduction in loan originations. We're at half of what we typically would see this time of the year as opposed to what we saw last year. Are any of these changes going to make buyers feel better? Probably not. We've also seen a significant increase in interest rates. We're nearly double where we were late December and the beginning of the year, where we were in the high 2s. We're now in the low 5s. So a 200 basis point increase in interest rates reduces the buying power for a lender by as much as 20%. So if you qualified for a $500,000 loan back in December or January, you're now qualified for probably $400,000 worth of loan. There's a huge difference in what you're able to look at. And we're going to talk more about that. And the adjusted expectations of our buyers, which is going to be a huge part of why this shift is taking place. Does it affect sellers? Not really as much. They're seeing different people look at their homes than would have looked at their home 3-4 months ago. The person, if you're selling your home and it's $600,000, you're probably seeing people come through your home that were looking in the 7s 3-4 months ago. That's just where the shift is occurring. More and more of these people are having to reduce their expectations on what they're able to buy. Does it mean they're going to stop buying? Probably not, but it's going to cause some pause in their looking. And maybe they'll change the area in which they look. It all depends on the individual. They may still seek that 4-bedroom, 3-bath with a pool, but they may move to a completely different area in order to achieve it. I'd also like to touch on some headwinds and tailwinds that I think are things to be mindful going forward in addition to what we've seen in the near term. Again, rental rates flat, increases in inventory in both the rental and the purchasing side are up substantially. That's what's important. Is it still enough to satisfy the market and make it feel like a buyer's market? No, we're far from it. But the fact that we're seeing a doubling of anything, 100% increase in something, that is significant and that is worth noting. As far as the headwinds that we have coming, I have a few that I'd like to share. We're seeing a definite slowing in interest in remote work across the country. Companies are reporting that they're moving back to open offices. They're finding that productivity is not necessarily as great with those that work remotely. We're also seeing a national migration slowing, where based on the influence of COVID, that increased significantly. And that is slowing significantly based on rental truck rates, where they go, which is an interesting way to monitor that, but it makes a lot of sense. Inflation in commodities increasing is still a huge headwind going forward. Something that's also worth noting long term is slowing birth rates. People aren't having as many babies. They're not needing as large of properties. And we're also seeing an increase in death rates as a lot of these aging older baby boomers are all getting, which is one of the largest groups of people that we have, are all getting to a point, although they've taken good care of themselves, we are seeing higher death rates. And we're also seeing some political pressure on rent controls across the country. Some of the tailwinds, which might affect the market going forward, we still see a huge shortage of new construction across the country. I know you wouldn't necessarily think that driving around the valley when you see homes being built, but we're still far behind where we need to be. Again, currently at around 7,000 single-family homes on the market. A healthier market for us would be closer to 25 to 30,000 homes on the market. There's a definite pent-up demand for the younger generations to move out of the house or move out from living with friends and buy their own properties. They are one of the biggest groups that are seeing loan originations as a percentage of the total. Another tailwind that we might see for housing is the uncertainty around the stock market and the equities market. Many feel it's a little overpriced relative to earnings, and we're seeing a lot of shift of funds into hard assets and away from the stock market. We're seeing that globally. We're seeing a lot of interest in markets around the country from outside of the United States to put funds into things that they might have a much better chance of growing some kind of improvement on their funds, whether it's the appreciation or cash flow. Due to the rising death rates, going forward, we're going to see a huge transfer of wealth from those aging baby boomers to their children. And in a lot of cases, some of that will end up in the form of purchasing real estate, possibly second homes, and those types of things. Hopefully you found all of this information valuable. Know that, again, you can always send and text the word answers to 59559. That's the word answers to 59559. Have a great week.